And welcome back. It is Ray Michaels here with Total News Nation and Grassroots 50. I'm here with Hannah Faulkner. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Well, Wow. We're here at AmericaFest 2024. How can it get better than this?
I know, right? I was here last year, and I know so many people are anticipating the win for President Trump, and it's like a celebration of all celebrations here in 2024.
I'll tell you what a comeback, huh?
Yeah.
Boy, they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Donald J. Trump.
They tried to sue him, they threatened him, they smeared him, and they even tried to kill him, and we came back better than ever. It's exciting times we're living in, but this is just the beginning.
All right, so Hannah here is all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. What a great city. Now, you're born and raised there?
I was born in Lynchburg, Virginia, actually, and my dad went to seminary at Liberty University, and then we moved here. I think I was probably 2 years old when I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. So I've been there for a long time. And you say it's a great city. It's a great city. But I have to say, I'm grateful to live in Tennessee. But the amount of cowardice, the amount of coward Republicans that we have in the state of Tennessee and many conservative states is disgusting. And I always tell people it's because of the apathy that Christians have, thinking that we are so much better than the state of California or other, very liberal, very woke states. And it's like, we're going to be worse than those states if we don't stand up. I mean, in my county, we have 7 school board members who all say they're conservative, all Christians, and 3 of them, or half of the school board actually, voted to keep pornographic books in the library. And I'm like, you guys are worse than those in California. So we've got to stand up. It's a great state, but we're going to be just like California if we don't keep standing.
Well, Nashville, the property has gone up like tremendously. And a lot of people are moving in there from California, from other states, Tennessee being the volunteer state. Now, I'm just going to take a wild guess. You were homeschooled.
I was. I went to kindergarten, and it wasn't the greatest experience. And my dad was like, all right, you're going to be homeschooled. So. No,
we talk about this all the time. In fact, I know a lot of people in the school, kind of the whole mechanism for schools. I homeschooled my 3 daughters. You can always tell when you meet somebody. They always say, homeschoolers, they're not socially, they're not going to be good social wise, and they're not exposed to other people.
Yeah.
No. They're the most kind. They look you right in the eye. They shake your hand. They have a great attention span. And you could just tell.
Well, I'll say this. I think it's so funny how people think that their kids are going to become social by sending them into the lion's den with other kids who
it's the
aren't
worst.
social. So all of these kids that aren't social are somehow going to be social, communicating with other non-social kids.
Via osmosis.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It's the energy in the world.
Yeah.
We can take kids that are unsocial and make them social just by putting them together. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, my word.
All right. Now can I tell them how old you are?
Absolutely.
All right. 17 years old. And she's already written a book. Take a look at this. Last Chance to Save Our Republic. Now, you know what? You talked about the wimps, the weaklings in Tennessee. It takes a 17-year-old homeschool student to write about how to save our republic. Most 17 years old, they don't even know the difference between a democracy and a republic.
Yeah. Well, I think it all starts in the home. In the last chapter, or the chapter before the last one, I break down what I believe to be the greatest issue facing our country, and that is the breakdown of the family unit. I mean, strong families make strong countries, and I believe that the reason why the communists, they fear one thing, and that is strong, godly, structured families, because they cannot control them. And once they collapse the strong, godly, structured families, they've got the entire society. I mean, even if you look throughout communist countries, right? They're number 2. They have 2 lines of attack. Attack their faith and attack the family. And you see through the feminist movement, you see through the sexual revolution, as I call it, they successfully have pitted men and women against one another, made men and women the enemy.
Yeah, because they don't need each other.
Exactly. Well,
right?
that's their their methodology of trying to pit us against one another. And then you see today we have men and women's spaces, and I get interviewed often, and they say, doesn't it make you feel bad? Doesn't it make you feel sad that the movement, the party, the Democratic Party that used to be for women's rights is now not for women's rights?
Well, they don't know what a woman is.
I tell them, I say, here's the thing. The Democratic Party has never been for women's rights. They have never been for women. It was all about control. They were very manipulative. If you truly want to be liberated, if you truly want to experience freedom, as Betty Friedman and many others during the feminist movement said, you need to leave your husband. You need to reject the patriarch, as they said, which they can never define, right? And so they kept pushing all of these ideas onto women. And then in the 80s and 90s started saying that there's no difference between men and women. It's just a social construct. So if there's no difference between men and women, then why does it matter that there are men in our spaces today? So the feminist movement is almost the preliminary phase to transgenderism and men in our bathrooms.
Oh yeah, you would know. This is a long, they're playing the long game, right? And you're absolutely right. If you have any biblical reference at all, it says God created man in his own image.
Right.
It is not good that a man is alone. I shall create a helper. He didn't create a whole nother being.
Yeah.
He took from the man to make the woman,
Yeah.
man and woman. Now we have Supreme Court judges that don't even know the difference, yet they can go on Broadway and say how great feminism is, but they can't define what a woman is, and there's a little contradiction. All right, so tell me, how did you come up with the idea for this book? Now, this is not released yet.
Not
so
yet.
If you're running out right now to try to buy this, you can't get it yet, but you can pre-order it.
That's right.
On Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any online bookstore.
All right, how do they find it? Under your name?
Yeah,
Hannah
you can
Faulkner,
look
or
up
under Last Chance?
Last Chance to Save Our Republic or Hannah Faulkner, or you can go to my website, cultureof1776.com, and it's there as well.
How did you become so well-spoken?
I have great parents. I have to say, my dad, he was a pastor for 9 years, an evangelist, traveled the country, preaching the gospel, and so I've got great parents. But I also think, it comes down to, really just accepting the Holy Spirit into your life, accepting the Lord, and saying yes to the calling that God has for you. There's so many issues in our country. Not everybody is called to get on podcasts or travel the country, but we all have such a significant role in this fight. And it's when we say yes to God, when we say yes to the Lord, that He's gonna move mountains.
You mean God has a better plan for you than you do?
Absolutely.
And you mean the hand can't tell the foot, we have no need of you? You mean
That's right.
Every part of the body is essential
That's right.
for the whole being?
Amen.
Gosh, that's so crazy. What a wild idea. It sounds like that might have been around for 6,000 or 7,000 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so he was a pastor.
Yeah.
You said he was an evangelist as well. Now, he traveled, or he had a
He traveled
church?
a ton. He did have a church, but before he was a pastor, he was evangelist. We're all called to evangelize, right?
Well, that's what we all do that.
So over time, I remember my dad, we were watching the news, we were watching documentaries, we would always get into conversations about what was happening in our country. But when I was 13, I kept seeing all this stuff happen in the news, and I was like, man, I really want to do something. I really want to do something about what's happening, but I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to necessarily defend what I'd be doing. And so it was totally a God thing. Actually, a lady with Turning Point USA came to the homeschool co-op that I attended at the time, explained to all these homeschool students what Turning Point USA was, how we can get involved. And so I started a homeschool Turning Point chapter. And then 2 years later, my 7-year-old sister at the time was paralyzed in a freak swimming accident that paralyzed her from the chest down. And so this was in 2022, August of 2022. We were placed in 6 medical facilities, Kentucky, Georgia, and then Tennessee. And this was also around the time when we started to see politicians, activists expose these medical facilities for performing genital mutilation and chemical castrations on children. And so we started to see all this come out in the news, and then I started to see it with my own eyes, them imposing this rainbow cult, this religion onto the children. They had rainbows, like the flags everywhere in all these hospitals. Doctors would come in with pronoun pins. And I remember significantly one day, we were at the pediatrician's office for a little checkup. And this pediatrician in residency came into the room, and she had a pronoun pin that said they, them. And I was 15 at the time, and I thought in my head, this person is to give parents medical advice for their children, but can't even tell us whether or not she's male or female. These people are mentally ill, and they're lying to children. They're experimenting on my generation.
Right.
And I started to see articles of Chloe Cole. She's a 20-year-old detransition.
No, I know Chloe.
She's incredible. And so I was like, okay, I've got to do something about this. So I prayed, and I looked around, and then in January of 2023, I hosted the first Teens Against Gender Mutilation rally with Chloe Cole, actually.
Wow.
And we had her come out and share her testimony. We had about 600 attendees.
It's a tragic testimony.
Tragic. And it saddens me that her story is one of thousands upon thousands. And that's why we should all fight. I mean, this is like a common sense issue. We should not be sterilizing, castrating, or chemically castrating or mutilating children.
Well, these are not new demons, because this is demonic. This happened with Baal worship, with Astra worship. They would go in and they would worship their gods. You probably know this, but like a big brothel, like a big orgy. And then the children would be sacrificed to the god, or they would become eunuchs, or, I mean, this has been going on for a long time.
Nothing is new under the sun.
No, very good. It's, and if you doubt any of this, all you have to do is just a little bit of research, just a little bit. Open up the Bible, you'll see that it happened thousands and thousands of years ago. So why are we now accepting it as being something that is good, or, oh, it's for the benefit of the child? I can guarantee you, God made them man and woman. That's it.
And I'll say this, the left is constantly like, oh, well, you're hateful, you're a bigot, you should just accept us for who we are. The problem
I don't accept that.
The problem is that we've already accepted them for who they are, but they haven't accepted themselves for who they are. And the most loving thing that you can tell someone is the truth. You cannot change your sex. It is inherently possible. And I'll tell you this, I mean, so many people, they're always against kids doing it, but I'm personally against anyone, because if it's scientifically impossible for a child to change their sex, then it's scientifically impossible for an adult to change their sex. I mean, this is, in no healthy and no thriving society are human beings cutting off body parts. I mean, this is a spiritual war that we are fighting right now. I mean, we're in times. I know people have been saying that for a long time, but we really right now, I mean, we are facing unprecedented things. I mean, kids are walking around confused on their identity. Men in women's bathrooms. I mean, 30 years ago, in your generation, if a man walked into the women's bathroom, they wouldn't have made it out.
No, unless it was by accident.
Yeah,
that happened to me
absolutely.
a couple times, but I didn't. It wasn't my intent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you, obviously.
Wasn't my intent.
But no, back in your day, if a man was dressed up as a woman and they walked into the women's bathroom.
This is it's confusion. If you look at any of the medical books, you'll find that it was considered a mental illness. It still is gender dysphoria, right? People are this, but I'll tell you what, you take God out of the equation, anything is possible.
That's right.
So you have to find who you serve, right? You can't serve God and other forces. You just can't. And if you follow God, it doesn't matter. We walk by faith, not by feelings.
Sorry.
So, so tell me a little bit more about the book. So you were inspired by the book. Turning Point came to your organization, but this right here, this is not like an easy reading. This isn't what a normal 17-year-old would write about saving the republic. First of all, to save something, you have to fully understand it. So you had to do your research to find out why Benjamin Franklin said, we have a republic.
If you can keep it.
If you can keep it.
That's right.
Why did they choose a republic over a democracy, over an oligarchy, over anything else? So tell us about the research, what you did to truly understand this.
Yeah, so before I started writing anything, my dad said, you should write a book. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not qualified to write a book. I don't know as much as, Bill Federer maybe knows. And I just don't know. I don't think that anybody would read the book. And so then I said, you know what? I sat down one day and I started with the gender ideology chapter, because that was something that I had personal experience and seeing up front and personal. And so I started writing and I started researching and finding out so many things that nobody's talking about, things that you don't hear the fake news media talking about. Obviously, you guys here at Total News Nation are talking about it because you are giving the real truth and the facts. But I started researching. I mean, the first genital mutilation surgery in America was in 1965. Nobody's talking about this. Everybody says it just happened 10 years ago. No.
And
this was
why?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Whoever thought about, I don't need that, I'm going to cut it off.
Yeah. So we break it all down in that chapter, and then I started researching why we left England in the first place, things that you don't hear in public schools, you don't hear in higher academia, you don't hear it anywhere. No. Why we left England, we were escaping a state-sponsored religion, and to me, the irony is that here we are in America where the government is now imposing a state-sponsored religion, the rainbow cult, onto the people. And so I started researching this, and then you talk about democracies versus republics. You hear all these politicians saying that we're a democracy. We are not.
We have to
a
save
democracy.
our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. No, Donald Trump isn't a threat to democracy. Donald Trump is a threat to your agenda, which is a democracy. The Democratic Party wants a democracy because democracies never last. Our founding fathers even said that out of their mouth, that democracies never last. We become peasants to the globalists. We become peasants to the elitist class, right? So I started researching this, and then, separation of church and state, not mentioned in any of our founding documents. And the intent that Thomas Jefferson had was that the church would be protected from a state-sponsored religion.
That was the Danbury Baptists. Yeah,
right.
It was. If you don't know any of this, you really need to get down. Where did you find a lot of the research? Where'd you do a lot of the research?
I mean, find it in our founding documents, like the Danbury Baptist. I mean, William Bradford. Have you heard of William Bradford?
Of course.
16-year-old faced with a decision, a life-changing decision, to be rejected by his family or to choose to fight for religious freedom. He fought for religious freedom and became one of the few leaders, one of the most profound leaders of our religious freedom here in America. Came over on the Mayflower. Nobody talks about him.
No.
We talk about reviving the youth. That is an incredible story from him. Just taking a stand, even if it costed losing his family, right? Because he knew that it was so impactful on the future generations, and it would be impactful in the end.
Well, the founding fathers knew that signing the Declaration of Independence was a death sentence. That's why John Hancock is so big, because actually King George didn't have very good eyesight, and John Hancock wanted him to know, this is me.
Yeah.
And so they were willing to give up their life, their fortune,
Yeah.
and their sacred honor. Wouldn't it be great at the opening of the next Congress, they said, okay, everybody stand up, continue standing if you're willing to give up your life, your fortune, your sacred honor. If not, sit down. Anybody who sits down, I'm sorry, we excuse you.
Do you know how many people would say, I'm not doing it? I think almost every single one of them. Them.
They're not
but
willing
you're not
to do that.
qualified to lead our country then. And this is the thing. The other day, you saw the dude, Tim McBride, who thinks he's Sarah McBride, asking to go into the women's bathroom. We are on the brink of World War III right now, and we have leaders of our country thinking that they are the opposite sex.
Yeah. We
are in some crazy times. But last chance to save our republic. We break all of the issues down. The biggest issues, I believe, facing our country. Why we came to England in the first place.
Came from
Mayflower.
England.
Yes, it came from England. We talk about abortion. Margaret Sanger. Nobody's talking about the eugenics roots of Planned Parenthood.
You mean
eugenicist?
And the whole Hitler and that. Yeah.
Hitler admired her work.
Of course.
Said that he admired her work, and nobody talks about that.
There's a great interview, I don't know if you've seen it, with Margaret Sanger on YouTube. You can find it, old black and white, and she kind of lays it out. It's pretty crazy.
Well, she said,
all right, when is this going to be available?
January 1st officially, so just a couple weeks. It's going to be officially available, but your audience can pre-order it. Last chance to save our republic, and my website's cultureof1776.com.
Hannah Faulkner, here she is right here. You're going to be seeing a lot more of her. We thank you for joining us today. I'm Ray Michaels for Total News Nation and Grassroots 50. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.